When I first got my start as a creator on Twitch.tv, I remember giving myself a few golden rules to make my brand as marketable as possible. Don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, and don't talk about literally anything that could incite a negative reaction from my audience because, well, let's be real, we have a very easily triggered society as of late. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I was inadvertently creating a bigger problem that I would eventually have to deal with years later. This was especially true in 2020 when I saw a lot of Twitch creators dominating the discussion as it pertained to social issues mainly in support of BLM or Biden, and I also wanted to be a part of that discussion. Unfortunately for me, the Twitch community desperately lacks diversity of thought, so liberal and progressive creators tend to get treated a lot better than others. And how do I know this? Because for years, Twitch and I had a great relationship. We collaborated on many projects that ultimately helped build my portfolio as a full-time creator. But the second I was mercilessly harassed by what I would consider a woke racist, you know, the type of racism that's acceptable because it's coming from marginalized people, yeah, Twitch was nowhere to be found. They legit left my emails on read, only for me to later realize they were highlighting that same creator for their activism. I wasn't allowed to be a part of the conversation unless I believed what everyone else did. But I think the most concerning part about what I experienced was this sort of entitlement to someone else's platform and what type of content they produce. I see this happen all the time with creators that are impartial or would rather reserve their platform for its intended purposes and not addressing social or political issues. I wanted to talk about the state of the world, but I knew the second I opened up my mouth on Twitch, I'd have to prepare for the inevitable backlash that came with not having the correct opinions. So I decided to dust off my YouTube channel and dedicate it to the type of content you're seeing right now. I figured if I could separate my gaming from my commentary, I could avoid backlash and people would just leave me alone. Ha! You naive bitch. Nope, nothing. Nothing could save me from the wrath of virtuous keyboard warriors. My livelihood would forever be at the mercy of self-proclaimed activists for as long as I refuse to self-censor in order to appease the overly sensitive social climate. So they thought. Within a span of 8 months, I've grown over 200,000 subscribers, despite the threats and harassment that come with being a problematic creator. And while my growth might be uncommon for most YouTubers, I still want to share some tips I picked up along the way because I understand the importance of having diverse ideas. And right now, the marketplace for diversity of thought is under attack, especially so for those who reject wokeness or lean even in the slightest to the right. So, for today's video, I'm going to show you how to make it as a controversial creator. But before we get started, I just want to give a big thanks to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. Safety and security are two very important aspects for online users, especially if you're considered a controversial creator like myself. And with cancel culture on the rise, one unpopular opinion could attract a horde of internet trolls who are on a mission to expose your personal information and take you down. Thankfully though, I use a VPN so I never have to worry about that crap. Surfshark VPN is a service that protects your information by encrypting all the data that you send through the internet, keeping your passwords, photos, and videos safe anywhere you go. Not only that, it's also a critical tool for those who live in countries that are heavily monitored or censored by their government. Wink wink. So if you want a peace of mind while surfing the web unrestricted, click the link below and use code Gothix for 83% off the regular price, plus 3 months of free service. Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out yourself. Alright, so now that we have your data protected, let's have a quick heart-to-heart. If you're a content creator, I hate to break it to you, but the wrath of cancel culture is unavoidable. Regardless of the type of content you make, by the way, because there will always be someone waiting to complain about something, even if you make cat videos. That being said, we can still prepare ourselves for when this happens. What you need to understand about these keyboard warriors is that they're power hungry. For whatever reason, they've assured themselves that they, a random person online, have the authority to gatekeep other people's opinions and will usually call someone out or start drama as a way to get that person wiped off the face of the internet for good. It's a form of intimidation and most of the time it works, but every minute you're focused on the mob is another minute keeping you from creating amazing amazing content, which is what they want. But when these people realize they can't intimidate you to conform or apologize for whatever infraction, by the way, never apologize, they'll then set their sights on people within your circle. I've known a few situations where creators have had their family members harassed or their jobs targeted, all because they were guilty by association. Yeah, that's a little unhinged for my taste. So if you're a creator that wants to respect the privacy of your significant other, your family, or your place of employment, I recommend going through your social media and scrubbing any references or tags that can link you back to the entities you're trying to protect. Trust me when I say, you can never underestimate the lengths people will go in order to satisfy their obsession with online accountability. The other tip that I can give you for this is learn to be more upfront about who you are and what you believe. From experience, a mob tends to be more vicious when they already know you but end up finding out something that they don't like. But if you're upfront about your beliefs from the start, the narrative shifts from being shocked to, that's just how they are. Why do you think shows like South Park have been able to sustain itself despite political correctness and wokeness saturating the entertainment industry? It's because they've already set the expectation that their content is purposely offensive and refuse to bend the knee when the mob complains. Now, on the bright side, I can confidently say that each time the mob comes after you, it gets easier to deal with, I promise. And even though online outrage is unavoidable, I still try to limit the amount of backlash I could possibly get by spending a little extra time prepping for the outline of my videos. Now, I realize that not everyone watching this may want to take the commentary route like myself, but what I personally do is write a script for a specific topic and revise it until I'm satisfied with how my message flows throughout the video. The other thing that I do when writing my script is I make sure to leave room for call to actions. It's what I do at the end of every video when I remind viewers to like and subscribe if they enjoy the content. So now that you've got your script mapped out, I'm going to share with you my secret weapon. A teleprompter. I personally use a Padcast Parrot teleprompter which fits directly over most cameras, and no, I'm not sponsored by them. This really helps me cut down on the amount of takes I do when recording my videos because I'm not going back and forth from reading a script and looking at the camera, and it's actually what I'm using right now to record this video. Alright, so assuming your video is all recorded, it's time to edit. I personally use two programs. One is called After Effects and the other is Descript. After Effects is way advanced. You can add crazy transitions, special effects. The average person probably will never use this. Now, Descript, on the other hand, is a really easy to use program that cuts editing time in half by transcribing your footage or your audio files. It is a paid program, but I highly recommend using it, especially if you're new to making this content creation stuff. And by the way, not sponsored by them or any of the other products or services I'm going to talk about in my video. So as far as the rest of the things I use to create content, as you know, maybe my setup, my equipment, I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out, but honestly, you don't necessarily need fancy equipment to make good content. I know a lot of creators that will record videos in their car with their phone and they bring in some pretty decent numbers. Okay, so now that you're ready to upload, we need to maximize your chances of bringing in those views. Remember, a lot of controversial channels are being censored or shadow banned right now, so we need to do everything possible to increase your visibility. I use a service called TubeBuddy, which helps me optimize all of my videos and also recommends the best keywords for me to use. I've come across a lot of amazing creators these past few months, and I was shocked to see that a lot of their videos included no tags, which is the most important thing that you should be including with every video upload. TubeBuddy is a paid program, but there is a free version of it, so if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description for you. The other important thing you want to remember is your thumbnails. There are a few services that can help you with this, but honestly, I recommend just learning how to use Photoshop and creating a template to cut down on your production time. The key to making a good thumbnail is asking yourself, would I click on this, and does this thumbnail convey what I'm trying to talk about in this video? Keep it simple, make it eye-catching, and be consistent. So assuming you have all of your videos optimized, now it's time to back up your content onto other platforms. Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey are a few that I'd recommend, with Odyssey being my favorite. I also recommend getting set up with mainstream social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, but also alt tech options like Minds or Parler so you can diversify over multiple platforms. Speaking of which, don't forget to actually promote your stuff. Remember that most people are lazy and easily distracted, so be sure to include your links, clips, and previews so that potential new viewers are enticed to actually give your content a chance. Don't just upload videos and do no promo. You have to actually put it in people's face for them to click on it. And just a heads up, if you fall into this controversial creator category, I can only assume that you're going to be very vocal on social media, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you're not careful, keyboard warriors might bait you into saying something that could get your account deleted. Whenever someone approaches me with hostility, I have to be careful about how I interact with them. Sure, the easiest thing to do would be to just ignore them, but you know what? I like a good challenge. This is why when someone tries to rile me up, I remind myself that I don't need to attack their character in order to defend my position, even though they might already be doing that to me. I might address their behavior, but not their character. That being said, put your ego on the back burner when you entertain your haters. Take it slow and be strategic with how you respond. A lot of the times you can frame these folks as being the aggressor simply by responding calmly to their belligerence. I would even go as far as saying that you should consider freshening up on your communication skills in general when creating content. I worked in customer service for 10 years, so I know that there's a certain way to talk to people, which is important with being in this industry. A mob will latch on to anything that can be used to label you as the aggressor, so don't make it easy for them. Speaking of which, be careful about falling into this trend of YouTube clapbacks. You know, when one YouTuber makes a video about another YouTuber and then they go back and forth and they start bickering, and the next thing you know, you're pigeonholed as being a drama channel, which is fine if that's what you're aiming for, but very few people know how to properly monetize that type of content. Keemstar is one who does it right, while up-and-coming channels that upload scathing videos about me do not. But in all seriousness, pick your target audience, stick with it, and make sure your content is something that they actually want to see. Next up, don't be afraid to collaborate with other creators or shows. The goal is to spread your channel's visibility to those who might not have heard of you due to YouTube's algorithm, and this can go both ways. If you're on another person's show, it exposes their audience to you, so their audience is more likely to search you later on. And if someone's on your show, assuming that they've built their own following, people that are searching for that person might end up on your channel as a result. Now, this doesn't mean that you should get comfortable relying on established creators as a means to boost your own channel. No. Take your time, build your brand, create some content, and get used to writing solo before you start collaborating. Doing otherwise is an easy way to get you accused of being a clout chaser, so let's try to avoid that. Now, the last tip that I have for you is about monetizing, and there's a reason why I left it for the end of this video. If your main goal for creating content is to make money, you're going to fail. I'm serious, straight up. You're gonna fail. From experience, when you're motivated to make content because of the money, then the quality of the content tends to suffer. And while I obviously pay my bills with the money I make on this channel, I view the money as a reward for making good content instead of it being an incentive. It's a mindset thing, kind of like the difference between a job and a career. A career is something that you build over time with experience, improving your skills, and is typically something that you're really passionate about. While a job, on the other hand, is just something you do to make money, and your boss is lucky if you don't call out of work tomorrow. It's also worth noting that I have never, in the history of making videos, asked my viewers to support me financially, because trust me when I say, if you make good content, people will be inclined to support you without having to ask them in the first place. Notice how I said good. Pay attention to the feedback your audience gives you as well as your analytics. Unfortunately, YouTube is saturated with creators who believe they're entitled to an audience or some level of success just by virtue of having a YouTube account. No, Rome wasn't built in a day, so be open to constructive criticism and changing up your creative process if you see it isn't working. Just because you think your content is great doesn't make it so. Aside from ad revenue or super chats that you can make from YouTube, it's also a great idea to create several streams of income because, as I said, if you're a controversial creator, you're probably gonna get demonetized at some point, so make sure you have something to fall back on. For me, before I started doing this full time, I did freelance graphic design, web design, I offered stream coaching services when I was back on Twitch, and like I mentioned earlier, it's a good idea to provide options to your audience if they want to support you. This includes PayPal, Subscribestar, Patreon, locals, things like that, and the reason that I say this is, let's be real, not everyone wants to support through YouTube. That's just the reality. Otherwise, affiliate programs, selling merch, or even acquiring sponsorships like I did earlier are great ways to earn money. That's right. Contrary to popular belief, you can still acquire sponsorships by making controversial videos or having problematic opinions. Money talks, and I believe the main reason many companies seem to cave to this type of mob intimidation is because the mob acts in a way that you would think they're the core consumers, even though that might not even be the case. They figure if they can create enough bad publicity, these companies might cave, and let's be honest, sometimes they do. But if we, as in other controversial creators, can show these companies that we're worth investing in, then I believe we can shift the culture from trying to deplatform problematic creators and instead encouraging viewers to simply change the channel and watch something else instead. And that pretty much wraps up my tips on how to make it as a controversial creator. But before I go, I do want to emphasize one final point. Diversity of thought is becoming harder and harder to come by, as in the intolerance to differing opinions is becoming more of a problem. Eventually, it will get harder for creators like myself and some of you to make a living, let alone make content we actually enjoy while still being true to ourselves. So unless you're okay with the powers that be deciding what opinions you're allowed to hold, what content you're allowed to consume, or what narratives you're allowed to question, then it's time to speak up. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. My name is Gothix and I will see you in the next one. I gotta go make some videos. Bye.